He's a bona fide superstar. The throw that he made to Jake Kumaro right before halftime in that game against the Broncos, I mean, there's only a handful of quarterbacks that can spin it like that. But still, Patrick Mahomes is on a different level. You're talking about, and this is not hyperbolic, the best start to any quarterback's NFL career. That's Patrick Mahomes. He's already got a Super Bowl and an MVP on his resume. Let's pump the brakes, putting Josh Allen in that territory.
One thing I will give Josh Allen credit for, and it's actually a great scene. If you saw the game, it was in Denver. Obviously, the no fans and all that are limited fans. When the Bills bus pulled out of the parking lot at the Broncos stadium, there was a large amount of Bills fans in the parking lot. You can only imagine what the scene was like in Orchard Park. I quickly want to mention Josh Allen gets one over on the Broncos. The Broncos coached him at the Senior Bowl. They are still in search of a quarterback. They actually coached Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen that week. Obviously didn't have the opportunity to draft Baker Mayfield going 1 overall, but they had the opportunity to draft Josh Allen.
They took Brad Chubb instead. I wonder if John Elway's second-guessing himself on that one, seeing what Josh Allen has become.
Yes, considering they have not made the playoffs since Peyton Manning retired and they are still in search of that quarterback. They had Josh Allen up close and personal, could have grabbed him. Instead, Buffalo did. They're not looking back, and the Broncos are still looking for their signal caller. We're looking forward to the college football playoff, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame. No real surprise, the Rose Bowl game presented by Capital One. That'll be Alabama and Notre Dame. Moved from Pasadena to Arlington, Texas. That's because Pasadena is saying no friends and family at the game, so they moved it to Arlington. Keep in mind, Notre Dame's Brian Kelly said they might actually opt out of the playoff if they weren't allowed to have friends and family attend, and apparently he was serious. The game, in large part, maybe due to his musings, was moved. All-State Sugar Bowl, Clemson and Ohio State in New Orleans. That'll be the nightcap. Obviously, those teams have a bit of a history in the CFP. Gary Barta, the chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee, answering this question from Reese Davis.
For the last spot, you had Notre Dame 4, Texas A&M 5.
Look, there's going to be a massive cap hit if and when the Eagles would trade him in the offseason, something that I'm sure they don't want to do, at least not initially. But Carson Wentz isn't going to want to sit there in the prime of his career to watch Jalen Hurts play. So they're going to have to work out the contract. They would have to work out the trade terms. A lot has to happen between now and next March. But to me, a lot of the signs point to if Hurts continues to play the way he does, Carson Wentz possibly being traded to the Colts.
Mike, yesterday the Washington football team earlier in the day opened the door for the Giants to jump back into first place in the NFC East with a win. Obviously, the Giants didn't, but you saw some aggressive play calling from Joe Judge early on in that game. Were you on board with his decision to go for it on fourth downs, on those 2 fourth downs in the first half?
Absolutely. You're going into the game with a backup quarterback in Colt McCoy. You're going to need points because Baker Mayfield and that Brown offense is going to score. You have a chance to win the division, which is something they probably didn't think of when they lost Saquon Barkley and all the other bumps in the road that they've had. So I appreciate what Joe Judge is doing. He's setting a high bar. He's trying to win. And look, this is such an unusual year in the NFC East. The fact that they're still in it, despite all the things they've been through, I think says a lot about him and how spirited that defense plays. They were undermanned again last night. I thought Bradbury's absence was monumental. They just struggled getting off the field and defending Cleveland. But I like the mindset. I think it sends the right message long-term to that locker room saying, hey, we're trying to win. We're not going to just try to manage the game.
Mike, that being said, who ends up winning the NFC East?
Oh, Chris, we've talked about this quite a bit. I got Washington. They got a one-game lead. They got a great front seven. I was disappointed in Dwayne Haskins against a very inconsistent Seattle defense. I know you like Seattle, Chris, but my eyes, when I look at that defense, I still don't trust it. So I thought Dwayne Haskins would have played better. And despite his inconsistencies, because they have a one-game lead and because of a dominant front seven, I'm going with Washington.
Mike, pivoting to the AFC East, now that New England has officially been eliminated from playoff contention, what's next for that organization?
They have to have a long look at what they're doing at the quarterback position, which is something really remarkable. We haven't said that in over 20 years. I thought Cam Newton was going to be a perfect fit in New England. I thought it was a great signing. He just doesn't look like the same passer that he was 5 years ago when he was the league MVP. And I don't know if it's age or injuries. He's not the same guy. So, again, the two intriguing players in free agency to me because of their age and what they've done are Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston, two players that have accomplished a fair amount in our league. And then if I'm New England, I got to think about using my first-round pick on maybe a quarterback because they have to get that situation, that position solidified. Now, with that said, Chris, I was really surprised how poor they were on run defense. Give Miami a lot of credit. No Jakeem Grant, no Mike Gesicki, no Devontae Parker. They had to run the ball and win. They knew it. New England knew it. And New England can stop Miami's run, and give Miami a lot of credit for that. And for New England not to be able to stop the run is something that Coach Belichick has always stood for.
And lastly, a long, hard look at the quarterback position, something that Mike said, by the way, there's only one team in the AFC that has 6 wins. Only one. Just seems hard to wrap your mind around the fact that team is the New England Patriots. What a difference between the Week 1 matchup between the Dolphins and the Pats and what we saw yesterday in the divergent directions these organizations are going, at least this year. So when you talk about it, Mike, a long, hard look, how long and how hard do you have to look at Cam Newton perhaps coming back?
Yeah, again, Zubin, I've been disappointed how he played. Yesterday there were a couple of times he missed some open receivers again. And maybe the last week of the season, if I'm Coach Belichick, maybe I also have to put Jared Stidham in and see what I have there. But I think if you ask New England from what they thought they were going to have with Cam Newton and how he played, I'm sure there's some disappointment in that building. Now, with that said, you could say, hey, let's bring him back maybe on another 1-year deal. Let's go through a whole offseason. Let's build this entire offense from the run game to the play-action game around what Cam does well. Maybe an offseason program, and we'll do him and our offense a lot of good, and maybe we can revitalize his career next year. But I'm sure there's a lot of disappointment right now in Foxborough this morning because Cam Newton just hasn't played as well as they thought.
For them, it's going to be a long week, literally and figuratively, because they won't play again until Monday Night Football, when they take on the team that over the weekend dethroned them and finally snapped their 11-year reign atop the AFC East. That'll be the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo, New England, next Monday night on ESPN. Mike, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Let's go from A to Z.
From A to Z.
From A to Z is brought to you by Redbox. Redbox has new movies at the box and streaming on demand. Don't miss Tenet, starring John David Washington and Robert Pattinson. Visit redbox.com for all the ways to watch. So we mentioned what a weekend it was for the Pats. They were eliminated from the playoffs on Sunday. The day before, they watched the Bills, as I mentioned, snap their 11-year stranglehold atop the AFC East. It's Buffalo's first division championship in a quarter century. Matt Hasselbeck, the day after the Buffalo win in Denver on Sunday NFL Countdown, putting Josh Allen in the most rarefied of air.
Josh Allen is every bit as good as Patrick Mahomes. It is so impressive. He makes it look easy. And when I mentioned it last week, when I watch Josh Allen play football, play quarterback, he looks to me like Patrick Mahomes. The style of play is very, very similar. And defending him is just got to be incredibly difficult for defenses.
I can't go there.
Yeah, not at all. All respect to Matt Hasselbeck, but I think he's a little bit prisoner of the moment with this.